For someone who, at some point in his life, had thought he would end up lost in a strange country without even knowing how to speak the local language, Gustavo Fagundes Lima's life had become an oasis. Living with his father and his brother was nothing like the existential abandonment he had known in the United States. Waking up in the morning and knowing he was safe, knowing his father and his brother stood around him like strong walls protecting him from the dangers of the world, made him a happy young man. And yet he had no idea that his happiness was still incomplete. He woke up at 7 o'clock that Saturday morning and went into the kitchen to make something for himself. Since he had always depended on himself while his mother worked, cooking was something he did with pleasure. When he came downstairs, he found Pedro standing in front of the television without paying any attention to what was on. "You're up early." "Good morning, sunshine, earlier than you think. I woke up at 4 and couldn't go back to sleep." "Why couldn't you sleep?" "Just worried about a friend from college." "It's going to be okay." "Do you like nicknames?" "Why sunshine?" "Do you know The Little Prince?" "I read it once when I was about 10. I barely remember the story." Pedro got up from where he was sitting, turned off the television, and went into the kitchen with Gustavo. While Gustavo stirred the pans, Pedro told his brother about one scene from the book that he loved very much. The little prince is a lonely boy, and one day he meets a fox who explains to him what it means to tame someone. She tells him that she does not eat bread, that wheat fields mean nothing to her, and that this makes her sad. But because the little prince has golden hair, once he tames her, the golden wheat will remind her of him, and even the sound of the wind moving through the wheat will become something she loves. In my case, I learned to love the sunshine when I got a cool brother from another country. Pedro did not understand at first when he saw a tear roll down his brother's face. He went to him, hugged him, and wiped his cheek. "I'm sorry, Gu. I didn't mean to make you sad. It's not sadness. It's just that nobody has ever said anything that beautiful to me. I love you, my brother." "I love you too, sunshine. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have a real father or a real brother." Ivan came down the stairs while his sons were speaking in English. He understood only a few words and phrases and preferred not to think too much about it. When he saw them eating and talking, he sat at the table and said, in his still deplorable English, "Good morning, boys." "Good morning, Daddy." "No English today. We have a trip to take." "Where are we going?" Pedro asked, while explaining to Gustavo that their father had said they were going out. "It's not very far. I'm taking my sons to meet my parents. You, at least, I know already know them." Pedro looked at Ivan as if he had committed the greatest sacrilege in the world. "Wow, Dad. How could I forget about them? We've been here for 3 weeks, and I never even asked about them. Are they still in Pirapora?" "No, my boy. Remember that your father can now have everything that used to be only a wish. I bought them a small farm near the river. I haven't taken you there yet because they were traveling." "What time are we going?" "I was thinking we could leave at 9 and stay there until tomorrow night." Although the boys were excited, Eva noticed a certain reluctance in Pedro when he mentioned staying until the next day. "What is it, Pedrino? What's with that discouragement?" "It's just that I have a project to do with a friend this afternoon. We were going to study until late tonight. It's the only time he has because he works and only takes a few classes. I can do it by myself, but then he runs the risk of losing his scholarship." "Simple. Ask him if he wants to come with us, and you can study there. My parents' place has enough room for everyone." After breakfast, the boys went to get their clothes ready. Pedro called his friend Artur, who loved the idea of spending the day outside the city. Even though his parents' house was large, Ivan bought a family-sized tent so they could camp near the Babinga River, something he had loved doing when he was a teenager. It took Ivan's car 32 minutes to leave his house, follow BR 455, and arrive at Chacara Monte Sion, which, despite its name, sat beside Ribeirão Bom Jesus. Pedro had known the couple Levi and Yona Lima Vig since childhood because he had lived near them in Pirapora. The joy of being able to call them grandpa and grandma was contagious, but it was their meeting with Gustavo that made them euphoric. The two of them hugged the boy as if he had just been born. "May the Almighty bless you, my boy." Gustavo needed his brother's help to speak with the couple. Ivan hugged and kissed his parents, whom he had not seen in a month. "I hope you can love my boys, and that they bring you the joy you never had with the other one." After everyone had settled in, Gustavo asked Pedro to tell his grandmother, "Now I understand where I got the color of my hair and my eyes. Daddy and my mother don't look anything like me. Like he said himself, I look more like Barry Allen." After Pedro translated what he had said, the boy's grandmother laughed, remembering the character her son had loved so much in his youth. But the real surprise, both for Gustavo and for Ivan, happened when the family went to visit Sucupira Waterfall, one of the main tourist spots in the city. When Gustavo saw his father without a shirt, he called him over and asked what that mark was on his back. When he found out that both his father and his grandfather had that same mark on their backs, Gustavo took off his own shirt and showed the birthmark he had, identical and in the exact same place. Then Gustavo asked his brother to translate for Ivan and his grandparents. "If you ever had any doubt that I was really your son, I believe you don't need to have it anymore. If you want, we can do a DNA test." Ivan hugged his son and smiled at him. "It's not necessary. The day I saw your photo for the first time, I saw your mother's face. And even if you weren't my blood, you became my son the first time I saw your face." Gustavo asked Pedro to tell his grandparents that he preferred to be called Sunshine, the nickname his brother had invented. From that day on, that was what they called him. After the waterfall swim, Hans made a barbecue, and everyone stuffed themselves with meat to the point that Pedro got indigestion. Ivan also called the boys over to set up the huge tent he had bought. It was large enough to fit at least 6 people inside, had separate spaces for each of them, and was shaped like a dome. The boys learned the history of the family, which had fled persecution under Nazism in Hungary because of its Jewish origins. It was explained to them that the Lima Vig family did not have a religion. They only followed family traditions, celebrating dates connected to stories such as Noah's Ark and the escape from Egypt. Inside the rooms of the farmhouse, several drawings could be seen showing the history of the people of Israel. Ivan explained to the boys that those images were not objects of worship, and that nobody in that family knelt or prayed before any image. Since Pedro already knew the couple's story, he explained to Sunshine that they did not believe in the story of the Christian carpenter, and that they did not make animal sacrifices either. For that family, the important thing was to welcome those in need and try not to get involved in the filth of the world. Sunshine told them a little about his life in the village called Cicero, near Chicago, where he had lived until coming to Brazil. He said he had had few friends there because the state was extremely violent. So whenever he was not at school, he tried not to leave the house very much. He also said that his material life had not been so bad because his mother had a great job, even though she was rarely home. Besides the normal amusements of such an ecological place, Pedro had also brought some of the games he had invented to teach Portuguese to Sunshine and English to his father. This time, he had brought a card game in which they had to match pairs of sentences written in English and Portuguese. When they saw how much fun it was, even Ivan's parents joined the game.